Senator Tillis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Gentlemen, thank you for being here. Mr. Sheridan, I want to give you an opportunity to respond to Senator Graham's question. You were talking about authorities and other resources that you need, so if you would hit that quickly.
Thank you very much, Senator. So regards to authorities, as I mentioned, our National Computer Forensics Institute reauthorization is extremely important, not just for us, but for the whole of government approach. As well, our authorities within the Secret Service related to investigations specifically for statutory authority on money laundering, structured payments, and unlicensed money transmitters would be very beneficial for us to strengthen our investigative mission. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Goldstein, in my office, I was a part of a practice that did ethical hack testing at Price Waterhouse back in the late 90s and early 2000s, and followed this pretty closely. In my office, I have a Hacking for Dummies, which is a great book, and every business should read it and understand how vulnerable they are. I believe that businesses, a part of what we're doing here is to provide you all with better tools to seek out bad actors and hold them accountable, but businesses have benefited mightily from the internet and electronic systems. They need to harden their systems the way that they harden their physical presences with alarm systems, burglar bars, whatever it takes to secure a physical premise. So I think one thing that we have to do is make it very clear to business that we alone, the federal government or the whole of government, are not responsible for securing their business enterprise. We're there when somebody breaks in to bring them to justice. But is it still the case that the vast majority of these hacks are attributed to human error, that there's a click on a link? Is that still the case in your research, that we've got to better educate people that they're the weak link in most of these successful hack events?
Thank you, Senator, for that question. It is certainly still the case that particularly with ransomware intrusions, most of the events that we are seeing are attributable to known security weaknesses. So it might be the case that an employee clicks on a phishing link. It might also be the case, as has been reported publicly with Colonial Pipeline, that the adversary exploited a legacy remote access device that was using a known password. And so certainly this is why we are so focused on driving adoption of these basic practices, because we know that these can demonstrably reduce the likelihood that a business will be exploited by a ransomware intrusion.
Why shouldn't we? I fall short of mandating what the private sector does and to provide them best practices, but why shouldn't we, as a matter of federal policy, require everyone who does business with the federal government to adopt and implement these practices as a price of admission for doing business with the federal government?
That's a great question, sir. So President Biden's cybersecurity executive order issued earlier this year required CISA to work with our partners in government to do exactly that, to prescribe new contract clauses that will be adopted into federal acquisition law and will provide a floor for the kinds of security controls that we expect to see from federal
The administration already has that authority. Congress doesn't need to do anything more to push the point.
My understanding, sir, is that today we can do what we need to do in that space. That's correct.
Mr. Vorndrand, what about the concept of, I think maybe Senator Whitehouse and Daines have introduced the concept of a hackback to basically allow private sector to go after those who are holding them or requesting ransom. What's the department's opinion about really encouraging businesses to go back after these people, hackback?
Senator, do you mind if I defer that question to the department? Thank you.
Sir, on the hackback question, the department has long held a position that it is ill-advised to encourage or permit private sector people to hack back. A couple of reasons. First, there's a real risk to innocent users. Very often the infrastructure that's involved is not the offenders that they're going after, but instead innocent third parties. Second, there is a real problem with the interference with ongoing criminal or intelligence investigations when you have private sector people monkeying around in these groups and these organizations. And third, very often at the early stages of an investigation, we don't know who's behind it. And so if you happen to be hacking back from, let's say, a film company that is invaded, and it turns out later that it's North Korea, as has happened, that's a particularly sensitive situation where you want to make sure that the government actors are the ones in charge of how we are going to take those steps and not have it be done by private sector people who are not in a position to understand the full picture or the geopolitical situation. So our longstanding position has been that is not a helpful road to go down. Instead, report to us, report to the FBI. We can take steps. We have authorities to have an effect and an impact, and that's the better approach.
Thank you all. Thank you, Mr.